Hi guys, and welcome to the 4th Strelok C++ tutorial. This is a remake, so I hope you guys enjoy it. And once again, you don't have to watch all the tutorials. I know I babble on a lot, so yeah. The first time I made the last tutorial on if statements, it was only 10 minutes long, and the second time I remade it, it was 30. So this might be like 30 minutes long too. So if you already know loops, then you can either watch parts of this tutorial or just not watch it at all. But I'm gonna try to, if you don't know loops, then you should watch at least part of it. So anyways, that's the deal, and I'll try to help you guys along if you don't know loops. But I think everyone here knows at least some logic, because if you're into computer programmer, you must be a logical person, or at least have some understanding of what logic is. So a loop is a piece of code that executes many times until a condition is set, or you can put a endless loop and it will execute forever. So let's examine some loops. There's a while loop. So once again, the same as with the if statements, I'm gonna put up a general template for making a while loop. So while a condition is true or false or whatever, loop statements. So whatever you want to do goes in here, and I commented it out so that it doesn't distract us from the. So this is a while loop, and so when the program gets to the while loop, it first checks, okay, is the condition true or false? So basically, while say x is less than 6. So if you had this as part of your program, right? Blah blah blah, the program's executing it. Now it gets to this part and says while x is less than 6. Well, is x less than 6? If it is, it will do the loop statements. But if it isn't, it will just skip over this part. So, and you usually put some way here to break out of the loop, because if x stays constant, then it will be a loop forever. So you could put like x plus plus here, which means increment x by 1 every time you run the loop, or x equals x plus 1, which is the same thing as x plus plus. So anyways, that's how you break out of the loop. But so it first checks if this condition is true or false, and then it checks if we need to do the loop statements. The other type of loop is, well, another type of loop is the do while. So do, now we have our loop statements, and I'll just indent these so that, oops, oh wow, I don't really like the indentation here, but something like this. So do, and now you have the condition that comes right after the loop. So you can either put it right on the last bracket, something like this, while condition. So now you're going to ask, what's the difference between the while loop and the do while loop? Well, there's one difference. So oops, let's make this the first type of loop. This is the second type of loop. So do while loops first do whatever the statements they say, and then they check for the condition. So do while loops must always run at least once. Oh, sorry, they can never run 0 times. So first they do whatever you say to do, and then you check for the condition. So if you want to say I don't know, if you always want to do something at least once, go with a do while loop as compared to a while loop. And then the third type of loop, my personal favorite, is the for loop. But it may sound a little bit complicated, but it's really not. So I'll put up a general template, and then we'll go over it. I++. So this is a general template for a for loop. It's pretty self-explanatory. For we're declaring an integer I equal to 0 inside the loop. We could just as well have put it outside the loop. So we can do int I equals 0, and then here you just take this out. But you need to put the semicolon because a for loop takes 3 parameters separated by semicolons. The first one is the declaration, any variable declarations. The second one is the condition at which you want it to run, and the third one is what we're going to do every time. So we're going to, in this case, increment I, so we can break out of the loop sometime. So I'm just going to put this back in here, and for int I equals 0, our condition goes in here, so you could say I is less than 50 or I is less than 10. And every time we run the loop, so this loop will keep running while I is less than 10 or I is less than or equal to 10. So, and every time the loop runs, we increment I by 1. And now here we have the loop statements. So loop statements. So this is our for loop. Now, how many times do you think this for loop will run? Take a guess. Correct, 10. So because what I is 0, so the first time it runs I will be 0, second time it runs it will be 1, etc. The 10th time it runs I will be 9, and it will go back to the top and say, well, I will be incremented after the 10th time, and I will become 10. So then it will go back here, check, is I less than 10? Well, 10 is not less than 10, so it will break out of the loop. So basically, this number, if I is 0 by default, if you set I to 0, this number is going to tell you the number of repetitions of the loop. So we can take this loop, this for loop, and write an equivalent while loop so that you understand things better. So let's put int I equals 0 while I is less than 10. Oops. Loop statements, and here you need the way to iterate increment I, sorry. And so this would be a similar block of code in a while loop. So you first declare the integer I to be 0, and then while I is less than 10, you do the loop statements, and then you increment I after every time. So this would be the same thing as doing this, but as you see, this is a lot shorter. You only take one line of code as compared to 1, 2, 3. So, oops, my bad there. So anyways, that's our general template for making for loops. And for I is less than, so let's just call this repetitions, so that we know that this is going to be how many times we want to repeat our loop. Okay, wow, it took 10 minutes just explaining the loops. Well, sorry guys. So now we'll actually get into doing some programs with them, and that might be fun, hopefully. So once again I edited them out, and they disappeared. Okay, so let's try to make a program with loops. So include IOStream as always. I'm going to include conio.h, as you know, for getchar, because I just don't like system pause, and the standard namespace, we need that. So here's our main declaration, and now we can make some loops. So let's start off with making a simple while loop. So we'll declare an integer I equals 0 while I is less than, this is the number of repetitions we want, so I want 5 repetitions. While I is less than 5, I want to say cout the value of I is, and now I'm going to put I, and I'm going to put an endel, so I'm going to skip a line every time. So, and now I'm going to say I equals I plus 1. Say that it's the same thing as saying I plus plus or plus plus I. So the only difference between I plus plus, and plus plus I is that I plus plus first takes the current value of